Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Amber, and today is a start to a reading vlog. And say hi to Pixie. Hi, Pixie. She's a nuisance, always getting into trouble, so she's gonna be held in my arms right now. I can actually finish making the clip. Huh? Yes. And she's always hunting for something to get into. You think that she was a puppy with how into trouble she gets. But anyways, so I have 4 books that I wanted to share with you that I will be reading throughout the week. The first one is Hard Rain by Irma Venter. This one is the one book that I don't really expect to finish this week because it's going to be just the book that I read at nighttime. It's only 345 pages, and it is a thriller, so it's very likely that I could finish it. But we shall see. So this is about a journalist named Alex Dirksen who it has a new summit in Pennsylvania, and he meets Rona, a photographer who has something to hide, and it's that whole like I always stopped believing in love, and all of a sudden I fall in love with this beautiful photographer. It's so mysterious and all this stuff. It's that. I'm not really starting to enjoy this book as much, but it just sounds interesting because then all then chaos happens when an IT billionaire washes up on shore after seasonal flooding. He finds himself at the center of an investigation with Rona as the main suspect. Um, it turns out she may have good reason for hiding her past. Wherever she goes, murder follows. And so the question is, should he follow his heart and help Rona hide the bloody trail leading to her, or should he use his head and run for his life? Her life. But okay, that would not make for a good story. So we shall see. This is the first book. But there's two books on the series, but apparently the second one's not available to us, maybe? I'll have to look that up, but at least I have the first book to read. And I'm not really expecting much out from this because, it's a thriller. And I don't know. I don't know my breath over these types of books. But the 3 books that that are my main focus for the week, is going to be Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. This was on the Booker Prize long list last year, and as you may know, I am still determined to complete my challenge of reading all the books that are on the long list, even though the long list for this year has already been released. That being said, this one is about a 34-year-old American woman who is a secret agent, and she is sent to do dirty work in France. So she is there to keep tabs on the French subversives or activists, if you like to say. And she uses illusion as a way to kind of enter herself into these this group. And apparently she's there to purposely create chaos within this group, I guess. But then she ends up having to read the emails of this guy named Bruno, who is talking about how he believes that if we want to save ourselves, we need to go back to our agent past. That we have to return to our agent past, and it ends up that the person who's supposed to be the one manipulating everything ends up being the manipulated one. And we shall see how that plays out. That is it in the synopsis, by the way. So this is one, and then the next one is Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. This is the first book in the Thursday Murder Club series, I believe. So I don't know how many books are actually out in this series, but I'm really excited. I've been wanting to read this book for a very long time. And this is about these 4 retired these 4 retired friends who every Thursday they meet in the Jigsaw room to discuss cold cases and try to piece things together, I guess. But then a local developer is found dead, and they end up trying to actually solve a proven day, an actual hot case. And this is, as the bodies begin to pile up, can our unorthodox but brilliant gang catch the killer before it's too late? So I'm very much like looking forward to actually finally picking this book up, and hopefully enjoying it. And then the other book that I have is one off my own shelves, which is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. And this is a book I've had on my shelves for like at least almost 10 years, I think. It's been a long time since it's been on my shelves. But this is the first book in the first Law trilogy. And I have no clue what it's about. It does not say. Oh, here it is. So this is about Logan Nine Fingers, infamous barbarian, has finally run out of luck. Caught in one feud too many, he's on the verge of becoming a dead barbarian, leaving nothing behind him but bad songs, dead friends, and a lot of happy enemies. Nobleman, dashing officer, and a paragon of selfishness, Captain Jezal Don Luther has nothing more dangerous in mind than fleecing his friends at cards and dreaming of glory in the fencing circle. But war is brewing, and on the battlefields of the frozen north, they fight by altogether bloodier rules. Inquisitor Glokta, triple turn torture would like nothing better than to see Giselle come home in a box. Coming, Glokta hates everyone. Cutting treason out of the Union, one confession at a time, leaves little room for friendship. His latest trail of corpses may lead him right to the rotten heart of the government, if he can stay alive long enough to follow it. And to the wizard Baez, a bold old man with a terrible temper and a pathetic assistant. He could be the first of the Magi. He could be a spectacular fraud. Whatever he is, he's about to make the lives of Logan, Giselle, and Glokta a whole lot more difficult. Murderous conspiracies rise to the surface, old scores are ready to be settled, and the line between hero and villain is sharp enough to draw blood. So, if I remember from how people talk about this, it's very much a satire. Like, he kind of like makes a joke of like typical fantasy tropes, I think, from what I gathered. So basically, go into this book, don't take it too seriously, and have fun with it. But we shall see. It's been a long time on my shelves, and I've heard really, it's either people love his stuff or they hate his stuff, kind of thing. It feels like there's not a lot of in between kind of vibe going on with his works. So it'll be very interested. It'll be very interesting to see where my opinion lands, because I haven't really been reading a lot of fantasy lately. Um, and I don't know if that's just saying that I don't really like fantasy as much as I thought I did, or my taste has just been changing. Like, I don't know, or just, I don't want my taste to change exactly fully. I like fantasy. But I've just been really like hitting hard with the literary novels lately, so that's where my brain has been. But anyway, those are the 4 books. And I plan to give you an update on each book once I read like halfway through each of the books, and then give you a short review, final thoughts, I guess, when I finish the books. So throughout the video, that's how you'll see them come at you. The first book that I will be like focusing in on, other than my nighttime read of Heartbrain, I will be reading Creation Lake, because it's, I think, one of the books that is due the soonest, so that is where things are going to be landing with that. But I will update you when I get halfway through Creation Lake. So I am back for my halfway update for Creation Lake, and I don't know how to like talk about this book because I don't really know how to feel about it. It's very much more of philosophy than action. So if you were expecting this to be like the thriller, because of the whole aspect of her being a spy, that would be a mistake in going into this book. This is a literary fiction, and I think that should be expected, knowing that this is the part of the Booker Prize long list. I don't know. Oh, well, shortlisted. This actually was a shortlisted novel. So I don't know if they would have ever put a thriller, like an actual thriller. So this is very much a literary fiction. Just she happens to be a spy. And what I've gathered so far from this book is that it's more of her not being like even a spy. Is that she's purposely being hired to infiltrate into these activist organizations and to manipulate them into violent acts so that they can be, what do you call it, delegitimized and take away their credibility, etc. So whoever's hiring her can get what they want, which is obviously like the resources that they're trying to block them from, etc. So it's so there's that. But what I will say is that this feels less about her doing this, then it's about Bruno, who she's reading the emails. Like she's reading Bruno's email. Sorry, my sentence structure is not working for me today. So like she happens to be reading his emails in the hopes of like finding evidence of like them like making plans, because obviously she'd rather do that than having to like manipulate them into doing it. But apparently she is not against doing that, as I've already seen from a past situation that we've been faced. But that being said, this is more I feel about Bruno, because obviously she's there trying to infiltrate and manipulate people, but because through these emails, I'm thinking that these emails are going to influence her more than she can influence them. But yeah, so like Bruno is dealing with grief, and we know this because of her investigation into his past, and we're seeing this in the way that he's choosing to live. Like he like literally goes and lives in a cave because he has this idea that if we got back to our Neanderthal roots, or whatever, that Homo sapiens could actually find a way to survive. Um, and so there's like these elements, there's these things that are being talked about, and it's very much a philosophical mindset. I think this is more leaning into like these philosophical ideas of survival, of what is meaning in life when we're living in a late stage capitalistic society, and what are we fighting for? Like there's like a lot of like these discussions going on through these emails. Like he's talking about certain things through these emails to this group, and it kind of like goes back to like his whole idea of like we need to like go back to our ancient roots and things like that. And I'm kind of like, okay, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting like thought process, I guess, but it is not something like I feel like there's not a balance between this discussion and these ideas that are being put forward. I'm not even sure if it's being put together in a way that makes clear sense to like the layperson. Like if you're not like into this kind of like discussion, which I'm not, you may not fully. I'm not sure if I'm fully grasping it either. Like I'm just like I get it on like basic level, but I'm here being like, okay, but what's your point? Because like, can we really go back to that? I don't think so. I think but maybe that's the point. It's like he has this idea that we can go back to that, but like, can we really? Can we? And it's interesting because we also have Pascal, who is, I guess, the leader of this activist group, like cult group, I would say. Um, and he has like different viewpoints. Obviously, he thinks that there can be a way to like still keep it modern day and like all this. But there's like all these contradictions within these groups, and I think that's always going to be the case when you have multiple people who are going to like think differently. As long as you have like different people existing, you're going to have like different opinions on things, and so I think it's interesting in that way because I think that we all have a common enemy. Capitalism, fascism, all the things. Yet because we're so unwilling to find ways to connect and like connect in a way that you don't have to agree on everything. It's like it feels like we always feel like we have to agree on everything, and so because of this, we constantly are getting into logger. Anyways, I don't even know if that's the point of the book, but it's there. It's in the background of it. What I will say is that I don't really care for this woman, Sadie, because she's just so indifferent and she's slightly snobby, in my opinion, that I don't find anything about her perspective, like when we're like in her story and see what's going on with her. I have like barely any interest in her, only in what she's doing in the sense of like how it brings us back to this group and to Bruno. I don't really care. I don't really care because I was kind of expecting that and we're halfway through this book, especially at this point that I would see some kind of like moral, ethical, like homecoming brought up in her perspective. Like it's one thing to kind of like disagree, and I almost feel like she does disagree with her thing that I'm here being like, okay, like I may disagree with what they're how they're handling it, but the fact that these people want to drill into the land and like take resources, destroy the water, all these things, that you should be able to understand and agree with. And if you don't, then you're no better than them. But I just, I don't know. She just seems so indifferent to everything. And I don't know if like this is a purposeful thing by the author of being like, she is indifferent because this is just a job to her. Maybe that's the case. But I feel like if we're halfway through this book and this is supposed to be about her kind of being like swayed or being not swayed, like seeing that like that her getting like pushed out of her indifference. I'm not seeing that happening so far. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this book because it's keeping me in hooked. Like I'm reading the book. Like I don't have like super negative things to say about this. I don't have super positive things to say about it either. It has something to say, I'm sure, but I just don't know how to articulate those things. Because like obviously she's like bringing in ideas of like late stage capitalism, the environment, all these things that I've never been able to like articulate in a very well thought out thing. Like it's there, but like I'm not one of those people that can just, you know, talk about it in a very intelligent way. But yeah, so far that is my thoughts. But I will leave you with a quote. And this was something that he said like towards the beginning of the book in one of his first emails. And he says, look up, he commanded in his email to Pascal Balmy and the group. The roof of the world is open. Let us count stars and live in their luminous gaze. Which is to say, these stars is deep past, which is to say, our future, bright as Polaris. Hey guys, so I have finished Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner. Took me a little bit longer to finish this than was expected because I got distracted yesterday because my dogs were mouse hunting and getting into things that they should have. There's crazy dogs. But either way, I did finish this in the late hours today and I don't know how to feel about this book. I definitely think that if you were expecting this to be like a balance of plot and thought and character study or just thought study, um, it's really not. It's very much in the sense of like literary in terms of like it doesn't focus on the plot at all. It's more about uh Sadie and how she's being influenced by Bruno. Yet this also makes you think that she's manipulating them while they're manipulating her kind of thing. And it's really not that at all. Like I don't even think Bruno knows her, like knows that she exists, and that she's just being influenced by emails that were never intended for her in the first place. And yet she is so indifferent to the consequences of her actions, of the fact that she is manipulating people to harm other people, and yet she's kind of like stuck up. And I don't know. I don't know because she seems a little bit slightly stuck up. She seems to be indifferent to the issues that are going on, yet she understands. You can understand being different, I think. So it's like I'm kind of confused about like what the author was trying to get at here because there's like different things that you could look at through this book, like a discussion on how activist groups can turn almost cultish. So maybe she's criticizing leftist movements and how there's this cultish vibe that can come from it, even though there's like a major cult vibe going on, like a major cult, like right in front of us with the right wing nut jobs. But I don't know, like what this author is trying to get at here with this, because there we have like this left wing activist group is like turning into a cult, but it's more of like a right wing cult, like because the Pascal is like, oh, we're trying to take down the system. But are you? Because you're actively playing into the system. So maybe it's talking about that. So like I can see that being like the main through line here when it comes to like this group. But then we have Bruno who's like discussing this idea of we need to go back to our ancient past in order to survive. And And there's other like things that kind of like a little bit slightly over my head, or I just was like, about like I don't know. But there's like one point that I will talk about. I don't want to read the quote. Whether in a rural outpost or an urban core, trying to dismantle capitalism from within capitalism is a dead end. And I find that really interesting because like I actually kind of agree with that because like it's a frustrating conundrum really because we want to get rid of capitalism, yet we cannot survive without existing inside of this capitalistic bullshit system because we won't be able to provide for ourselves and our families if we aren't living and existing within this capitalistic system. So how do you destroy a system that we have to survive in? You know what I mean? So I don't know fully how to grasp this book or what this author's full intentions were. I couldn't grasp it very much, and I don't know if that's just me. Like I'm just not that well knowledgeable of things, I guess, or I just couldn't grasp what the author was trying to write because the threads were just kind of disconnected from one another in some ways, and I also just don't understand the character, Sadie. Like, what was the point of Sadie? Because she's just so indifferent to everything, and it's like, other than like Bruno, everything else, she was so indifferent. She didn't care that it was her fault what happened with Nancy and that boy. Like she never takes responsibility for the fact that yes, it was your job, but you caused this to happen. You did. You know. Sorry, something's going on here. Um, you did cause these two, like what do you call them? What do you call it? It's that thing. Oh, entrapment. You did entrap them. Like she doesn't want to take responsibility for that. Like that she did entrap them. That is what this is about. And she wants to blame Nancy, but like I'm just here being like this is you. This was all you. You did this. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. So she's so indifferent to what she does and the impact of her choices. And I was kind of expecting that there was going to be some moral quandary going on with her because of like the things that she was reading, but instead it's just like the whole book is her being indifferent to what her actions are doing to other people. Um, and it ends with just a failure of something, like something that she was doing ends up being a failure, and then she just runs off to contemplate Bruno in like use Bruno as like a thing of like how she escapes into the ether. But like there's a difference between you and Bruno. A very clear difference. He was trying to make an actual change in society. He wanted to change for things for better. Where you're just a manipulator who caused problems for other people just for a paycheck, and you you oh God. I don't know what the author's intentions were with this character. I don't really understand the purpose of this book, like what the messaging, what she was trying to say fully. So I just don't have the ability to grasp. But it does leave you with things to think about. So for that, if she was just trying to get you your mental juices line, she succeeded in that. So I was definitely trying to figure out throughout the whole book what was the point? What's the point? What is the point? But I don't know if I ever will get grasp about this book. But I don't think I'll ever read this again. That being said, I'm not reading this because I just don't know what to think about it. But um, updating you on Hard Rain, I actually ended up DNFing this book. I did not like it. I felt like he was too obsessed with a woman that he only knew for 2 weeks. And I get tired of this whole idea of like, oh, this beautiful woman, I'm automatically obsessed just because she's beautiful. Like, you don't get to know her. Just is insta love crap. And I don't go for that. And especially with this book, I don't know if it was a translation or if it was just the story itself. I just was not able to enjoy the way this story was being told, or him. Like, I know we get her perspective at some point, but it's taking too long. And I don't really care. Like, I was trying to read it, like, in the way that I would read, like, like I watched a movie that was kind of like similar, but I just couldn't. I think in trying to read something that I was expecting to be like just like a fun read, and it was just this guy being obsessed with this girl that he doesn't even know. On top of trying to get through creation, like I just could not. So that being said, the next book that I will be reading is The Thursday Murder Club. I don't know if I talked to you about what this is about. I introduced this, but I'm going to reintroduce this. So this is about these four retired people who are like unlikely friends, and they come together every Thursday to study and like try to piece clues of unsolved murders. But then a local developer is found dead, and they end up deciding, hey, we're going to solve this case, and it them trying to solve it before more people die. It it just seems like it's gonna be a fun read, and I'm crossing my fingers for that because after recreation, like I need something fun. And we'll see if I have an audiobook for this. Oh, that reminds me. But anyway, this is what I'll be reading next. I was gonna come back real quick to Creation Lake because I did read a majority of this book through the audio, and it's interesting because I don't know if this is me being different to audiobooks, but I heard a lot of people like criticizing the audiobook because they didn't enjoy it, and I can understand why they didn't enjoy it. The way that this person reads this book is very almost computer as like it feels like a computer reading to it on some level. But I will also say, I just want to say, like, I think a lot of this is like you're seeing. This is not meant to be an action-packed book. They were just kind of like being with her as she's observing people and introducing herself into this group. I get that, but anyways, the audiobook. I definitely understand why people would criticize the audiobook because she narrates it in a very computer like tone, and that definitely did bother me a little bit, but overall it was just better than me reading this book myself. So I'm just kind of like neutral about the audiobook. I understand why people wouldn't like it, so I would go into it cautiously. If like you're somebody that needs somebody who's more personable and like creating life to a character, I would go cautiously. But if you're just like using the audiobook as a way to just get the story done and get the story read, then it probably wouldn't bother you. Like if you're not somebody who cares too much about the production of an audiobook and it doesn't matter to you too much, and it's just a way to get to process the story, then it shouldn't bother you. But I can definitely understand why people would be annoyed by the way that the story is told through the narrator of the audiobook. But that is the last I will talk about this. I will move on. I will update you when I get to my halfway point of Thursday Murder Club. Hi, Elsa. I am back to give you my halfway update for the Thursday Murder Club, and I'm really enjoying this. I definitely was kind of surprised by the way that it's written. It's kind of has like a literary writing style in some ways. So it's not like it's not a straightforward writing style that you would typically expect in a murder mystery. And I really enjoy these three people and the way that they are handling this investigation. They're definitely using their age to their advantage, and specifically the way that people view elderly folks. And they use that to their advantage to get information and such from the police and things like that. And I really like Elizabeth and Joyce the most. They're just smart, and they kind of have like this way of like being subtle about how Elizabeth lacks a little bit of subtlety, but she's that even to her advantage. But like Joyce is like more subtle in the way that she kind of like takes advantage of other people to get what she wants and needs and things like that. So like it's interesting. I'm halfway through, as I said. And I will say, like, the investigation is kind of like, there's like things obviously that they're not getting because they don't have access to the police report. So I don't know because they keep thinking that it's this one person who's doing it, and I just don't think it's him. And if they knew one certain thing, they wouldn't be thinking it's him either. So that's like a little bit of a conundrum for me because I'm like, is it gonna just turn into like this easy answer at the end, or everything just comes together like right at the end, or are they gonna actually figure out about that about the photo? Like I don't know. either way, it's enjoyable. But I'm really appreciating like the discussion room, like how people view elderly people in a way like through the way that the story is told. But yeah, we'll see. Like right now, I feel like it's gonna be like a 3 star. It's good. It's funny in moments, but at other moments, it's kind of like, like it's kind of like there's just not enough there. I think for me to like find it like really gripping, but it is enjoyable. Hi, so I have finished the Thursday Murder Club, and I think I talked about earlier that it made me worry because they weren't having like certain clues that the cops were having, and that it might just all kind of like come together at the end and like kind of like an info dump and that all that. Thankfully, it did not go that way, and actually, the person behind one of the deaths was unexpected, and even the person responsible for the first murder was unexpected in a way. Like, I kind of like changed my mind on this person, and then to find out, okay, I was wrong. But either way, like, it's a good, enjoyable read, but it just it I don't know how to explain it. It's fun. It has something to say, and in a sense of like talking about how society views older people, and the fact that as soon as someone like is like a certain age, people don't take them seriously or think that they're able to like to be smart or energetic or like live lives and do things, and you see how they like use that to their advantages in a lot of ways, especially at the beginning. It's very clear that this author like made the two cops that interacts with them to be like smart enough to figure things out. I thought that Chris was gonna be dumb, like he kind of comes off a little dumb at the beginning, but thankfully like we realize that he does know that they were playing him on some level, but he also doesn't treat them like they're dumb either. So like I really appreciate like that aspect because I do find it kind of saddening and also frustrating to see people who are younger treat elderly people like they're dumb or they're like a child themselves now, when it's very clear that they're not. And one day you're gonna be in that same position, so like get a grip. Like I just don't like how Yes, so I wanted to talk about another book that I read. That I don't think I've mentioned this, but I have been like reading like a couple books on the side. But I reading with my brother. Reading them with my brother. But anyways, this is one of the books that I was reading with him, and that is Aragon by Christopher Paolini. or Paolini. This is the first book in the Inheritance Cycle, and I remember reading this when it first was published, or at least in like the first 2 years that it was published. I don't know. This was published originally in like 2002. And I will tell you that the author was like 19 when he published this, but I think he deserves some criticism when it comes to this book either way. First off, there was a lot of criticism in the beginning just because of how close it was to The Lord of the Rings with like Aragorn, Arya, and then like the one of the characters in Lord of the Rings, I think the love interest to Aragorn in there. The names are just very closely tied, and you can definitely see the parallels. And I will say that it's definitely clear to me that Paolini loves Lord of the Rings, and he put that a lot into this book. A little bit too close to being a little questionable, but that being said, the first book you're introduced to this boy named Eragon, who finds what he thinks is a stone while he's hunting in the forest, but it ends up hatching and he realizes it's a dragon. And because of this, a lot of things change in his life. Also, it creates a lot of danger for him because the king, who has gone mad because of like his long life and maybe because he had other things, I guess, with the way that he uses magic, I think it like caused him to go a little bit mad. He is after Aragon, whether to kill him or to force him to ally with him. If that obviously would depend on what Aragon decides. But when two Razak come to try to find him, they end up destroying Aragon's home and killing his uncle. And because of this, he's out for revenge. And we meet Brom, who is the storyteller, and he ends up coming with them. And through this story, like you're seeing them trying to find answers, trying to find the Razak, and ultimately trying to find, or ultimately it will lead him to the Varden, who are the enemies of the Empire, but also they have their own political thing going on that is a little, I don't know how to feel about that. Especially because they make it out like they have the right to control Aragon and Saphira, even though they haven't sworn allegiance. So like, do you really have the right to be? I don't know. That's beside the point. What I will say about this book is that I think I was a little bit too lenient on this book when I first read it, maybe because I was a young reader myself at the time. But that being said, there are so many moments in this book where something like a chapter or like at the beginning of the chapter or a chapter, a couple of chapters before, where something or somebody will bring something up and then it will obviously be important, but then Aragon will conveniently forget what it is and won't use that knowledge to his advantage, and then he'll be like at the last thing like, oh my god, I should have known. And I'm just like, it was literally told to you like 5 seconds ago. I'm gonna tell you about one specific thing because it's like a very clear example, but it may be considered a spoiler. So if you're somebody who does not like spoilers in any shape or form, I would avoid this. So when Brom was alive, he does talk to him about scrying and how you can use scrying and stuff. And then when they end up rescuing Arya, who is in a coma, who's it? Murtagh tells them at one point, because they're like wondering why she's not waking up. It's been a while. He has healed her wounds, all the wounds that he can physically see. So he's like, they're like, why isn't she waking up? And Murtagh or Aragon, I don't know who, can't remember, brings up the idea that maybe she is purposely staying in this coma, that she is there, like she's well, but she has used magic or something to like keep herself in the coma. And he does not once in that moment think, I could scry into her mind and see for myself if she's actually aware. Even though he has the knowledge that he could do that. And it's not until they're like halfway to the Varden that he's like, oh my god, I could actually scry. And I'm just like, you didn't think to like do this before when this was first brought up? You would think having that knowledge brought to you about like maybe that she was, that would have been enough to make you think to scry. But no, it just randomly out of the blue pops into your head like almost however long it's been. Also, I find it very gross that all the characters are basically men, and these two guys are just carrying around this unconscious woman, and they're like, "Oh, she's so beautiful." And it's just so icky the way that they act towards her in some ways. Like Eragon does like try to be respectful in some ways, but like it's just that typical man thing, I guess. I don't know. It's not typical man thing. I think that we had this idea that this is what men should have, but that's just not appropriate here. Who is gonna see someone who is clearly dying and is gonna be like, oh, but she's so beautiful? What I'm thinking about is she gonna actually live? He's a little too obsessed with her, and especially with somebody that he does not know and has no connection to, other than like having seen her in his dreams, which again is a little weird. And so it's like there's just like these little problematic things about this that I don't like. I don't like the fact that she was unconscious the whole time that they were journeying to the Varden, and yet at the same time we're supposed to believe that she's this really strong person, which yes she is, because obviously she has kept herself alive this whole time because there is a poison, and this is why I get it. I get that she was staying in a coma because of the poison that was like killing her, and if she had like awoken, it would have quickened the pace of the poison. I get that, but it's still a little like, did you have to write it like this? Like, did you have to do this? Like, did you have to make it be men? I don't know. I don't know how to feel that. It's just a little gross. And then also the way that Eragon treats her, even though he knows that she's an elf, she's not even just a human. And even if she was, I would still find this despicable. But on top of the fact that he's treating a woman this way, she's an elf, and elves, their societies are different. But on top of that, he knows that she is very capable and very strong. And when they're going to battle, he's like, you're gonna fight with us? And she's like, yeah, of course. And then he's like, but it's too dangerous. I'm like, dude, stop. She could kill you in a blink if she wanted to. Like, and you know this, yet you act like she's incapable because she's a woman. And he does the same thing with Braum at the beginning. He constantly underestimates him, even though Braum has given him ample evidence that he is very capable and can care for himself. Like, he has shown evidence of this. And yeah, he's like, when they're first starting to like do their training, Eragon is like so arrogant and be like, oh, of course I'm gonna beat him because he's he's just an old man. And like, you literally understood and agreed that even he says to himself, like, no one could go up against the Urgals or whatever, or the Razak, and survive. And yet he was able to escape the Razak, yet underestimates his abilities. Again, I feel like this is almost plot hole situation, because he's constantly like, it's constantly being like one thing, and then he forgets, or like he underestimates people, even though he has clear evidence that of the opposite. So I just don't like the way that women are being treated in this story. I don't like how I feel like it's plot holery. It's very much plot holes in like things are being told to him. He understands that he takes it in, but then suddenly he just suddenly forgets it. Okay, like I give this 1 star. I'm really just disappointed. I knew this was gonna be. I knew it wasn't gonna be good. Like, I kind of was expecting it to be cheesy and like, just something to just laugh about and just enjoy. But I could not laugh like, and it got worse when towards the end. I will say, like for the most part, I was like okay with the book, and I was willing to just roll my eyes at like these plot hole situations. But then the way that they act towards Ira and like just like that icky man look, I don't, the male look, the male gaze, whatever you call it, like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like the way that they viewed and even talked about her a little bit, and then like when he underestimates her abilities, I'm just like I don't like the way that that is being shown here, and I don't know if that's his youth showing or if he's still like that in his writing. So if you've written something that like of his that's more recent, let me know if he writes similarly of women because that really stood out to me the most and that ruined a lot of my enjoyment. Yeah, I was really enjoying the book. Like I would have probably given this book like 2.5 stars if that wasn't there. Like if that whole situation with her from like her being in a coma, the way that they talked about her and all that, like if that wasn't there, I probably would have given like a 2.5 star, and maybe even continue on. But I don't know if I'm going to continue on now. I can't. I'm like, the way that woman is being talked about. Like, the only one that has any reason, there is another woman in this, but she's older, and like, I feel like that's the only reason why she's not like viewed in such a way, like, is a weak, because she's older and blah, 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 blah. And like, obviously, she's not the love interest to Aragon, so, you know, she's just viewed as another wise person, wise older person type thing situation. But yeah, I don't. Anyways, so I would just like to know if his writing got better when it comes to how he treats women in his works, uh, or not. But otherwise, 1 star. Hey guys, so I am here to update you on all the things because things have changed. I am reading multiple books at a time now, and I have already finished another book, but not the book that I was supposed to be finishing. But that being said, let me just tell you what the book I did finish, and that was Garlic and the Vampire by Bree Paulson. This is the first book in the Garlic duology, which I did not even know this was a duology until I went to log this in my Storygraph. And excuse me, I just have soda. So if I had known, I would have already I would have requested that one at the same time too, because graphic novels, you just go through them so fast, and they're typically easy to like get through, because of the pictures and everything. And this is what the illustrations look like. So apparently, there's a switch that like gave vegetables and fruits um the self awareness, the ability to and be animated and like have their own own be their living beings, basically living actual like sentient, have their own thoughts beings. Anyway, so we have this garlic who ends up having to go on this adventure to meet this vampire who has taken lodging at this mansion they thought heaven, you know, and she's an anxious little garlic. And I feel her for it. I definitely feel her for it. Um, with that, but it was sweet. It's cute. I did like the art illustrations. I'm not really like I can just tell you if I like it or not. I'm not that good when it comes to illustrations and stuff. I am not that artsy fartsy, so a lot of the things that are like, or maybe basic to some people, are like really good to me because I can barely do anything artistical at all. But that being said, it was cute. It was sweet. I really enjoyed garlic, and celery can chop himself up and be rid of him because he was complete cowardly ass. That being said, 4 stars. I already tried doing this video, but then I got quite heated. So I'm going to talk about this one right now. And what I'm just going to say right now is that, first off, the book is not over. The government lied to us because they wanted us to continue feeding the capitalistic corporate machine. And that is like one of the reasons why the lockdowns ended when they shouldn't have even ended. Because the economy, oh, the poor economy. We can't survive with the masses working these jobs, yet you're willing to sacrifice their health, their lives for the sake of it, and you all bought into that. And even leftists are like, who are being like, resist the government. You know, the basic way of resisting this corporate capitalist machine? Wearing a mask. Like, it's infuriating. It's infuriating me to see people out here not caring one bit about the impact of their actions on people. And these are the same arguments that we've had even from the start of the pandemic to now. And the same people who are like, we gotta care about people's health and blah 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 blah. We gotta do everything to protect people's health. Are the same people not wearing a mask now, and it's infuriating because here's the thing: even if the pandemic was over, we know that masks are very effective of not only preventing you from getting sick, but especially causing you from spreading your germs and whatever illness you may have, whatever virus, airborne, ickies, from spreading to other people. And the fact that you care so little about your own life would not bother me. Okay, like if you want to get sick, if you don't care about getting sick, fine. But the fact that you don't care about the fact that by not wearing a mask, you are also very possibly spreading your germs and airborne viruses to other people is despicable. I have no respect for that. And I don't have any sympathy for people who every time I see a video where they're like, oh, I got sick. Oh, I'm constantly getting like, and they talk about how they're like getting sick like 3 or 4 times. And I'm here being like, I have no sympathy for that. Because we have the tools. You have the fucking tools. You can go to your movies. You can travel. You can go to work. You can go to your stores. You can do whatever. You can live your life and wear a mask. Wearing a mask does not prevent you from living your life. You know what prevents you from living your life? Getting sick. And also the fact that you're so willing to let your germs spread wide. It just goes to show that as long as you're not affected, you don't care. You don't care how your spreading of illnesses affects others. The physical and emotional impact that you're not wearing a mask has on people who are still wearing masks and actually care, and sees the impact of you not wearing a mask. Like, my dad hasn't been able to leave the house because unless he's going to the doctor, because it's not safe for him to be out there. He's immune compromised. Very immune. Like, people who are immune compromised shouldn't have to sacrifice themselves and stay in the house because y'all are so selfish and full that, like, anyways, this is why I deleted that, and I was getting so angry about it. It's because people do not care, and so it's exhausting and infuriating because even if the pandemic is over, we have the tools to lower the rates significantly. We saw proof of that in the height of the pandemic when the majority of people were wearing masks, that illnesses were lowered significantly. Our environment, the environmental impact of us wearing masks also was a positive. Like, part of that is because people were staying home a lot at the beginning, but we still saw some of that even with people wearing masks. And it's like, and like now, because people are not wearing, like, significant amount of people are not wearing masks, we are starting to see how this virus is evolving, and like we're having like all these different, and you're all like, whatever, don't care that we're having like other viruses are like that have been dormant are now springing back up. Because why? Because we have destroyed our environment to the point of bringing these back up, because we're just letting viruses run rampant. We can easily prevent these viruses from running rampant by wearing a mask. Like, there's no excuse for this bullshit. And especially if you claim to be a leftist and you claim to be against the capitalistic machine that we're forced to exist in, and you want to resist on the as much as you possibly can. Wearing a mask isn't one of those things, because they don't care if we die. They don't care if we get sick. They just want you to sacrifice your health and your life for them. And who cares if you sacrifice others along the way? And you guys are just feeding into that machine. Like, you're part of that machine now, and you can claim your leftism and go to these protests, but when you're not wearing a mask, you're saying screw the disabled, screw the immune compromised, screw your own health, because you know what? You can become disabled just like that. You're going to become elderly at some point, so this is going to impact your future too. but I'm a leftist. I care about people, but you don't care enough to wear a mask. You know what I mean? Like you get it. I won't hear arguments because like if my argument is wrong, then I should be able to hear other people's argument. But every time that I've had these kind of like discussions, people just get a little disgusting in the comments, specifically on TikTok. So I won't hear arguments about this because no matter what you're gonna say, it's not going to it's not gonna move my argument because it'll just go back to this. Who fucking cares? You can claim the pandemic is over, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm living in a Lulu world, but it doesn't change the fact that wearing a mask prevents illness, and it's been proven time and time again. And I don't care. I don't care what anything else you have to say because you can prevent yourself from causing another person physical harm, whether that's just a fucking cold or COVID-19. You can prevent others from getting sick because of you by wearing a mask. You can lower your chances of getting sick by wearing a mask. It's 100% that you will prevent yourself from spreading to other people by wearing a mask. It is like 98% to 99% that you will prevent yourself from getting sick, especially if you're wearing an N95 or a K95, of you getting sick. And guess what? You can live your life. You can be healthy. You can go to your stores. You can go to work. You can do all of that with your conscience being clear of knowing that you're not spreading any kind of illness to other people. I'm not spreading harm to others because I'm wearing a mask. I can be at peace at that. Can you? That is the question for you. Can you be at peace knowing that you're not wearing a mask and spreading things to other people? Very much so. Like, are you really okay with that? Are you really okay knowing that you have let yourself become a cog in the capitalistic machine? Like, you to die for this. They don't care. They want you to go around spreading disease because they don't care. As long as you're making the money, they don't care. Anyways, the book I am talking about is Bat Eater, by Kylie Lee Baker. And as you probably can guess, it is centered at the start of the pandemic. You're introduced to Kara, who sees her sister be pushed in front of a train and murdered because of it. And right before that, he calls them this word, this term, and she ends up working as a crime scene cleaner, and she starts seeing a pattern, that being that the majority of them seem to be Asian Americans, women, American women, and that there are bats at the scene. And at the same time, she's also feeling like she might be losing her mind because she'll come home and she'll be like, I swear there was 2 apples in this fridge and there's only 1 left. Or she talks about how she, like, one of her coworkers will put pictures of, like, the scene, like he, like, draws or whatever, into their bags. And then she won't look at them. She'll just like tear them up, like shred them. And she'll swear that she's done this, but then she'll like something will happen. She realizes like I did not actually do that. So like she thinks she's losing her mind. And so where I left off, it broke me because of a certain action that was taken against her by a fucking racist piece of shit. And yeah, I lost it in that moment because like I knew this was something that happened a lot. And I think I'm just like raw. I'm like very raw about it because this is something that people have been experiencing, and I think they probably on some level probably still experience some of this still today. So but I did not know about the term bat eater. Like I did not know that was something that they were called. I did know about like that news story that came out talking about the bat, and I was so confused by that because I'm like, okay, even if it was that, like I don't know. I didn't take it super seriously because I'm like, there's just so many like different things being brought up. Like, well, how did this pandemic start? Like, where did it originate? Blah 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 blah. And like I don't even know if we even know still. Like if we have any solid proof of where it started, how it started, and it doesn't really matter because fucking reality is that the pandemic could have been prevented. It could have been fucking prevented from even starting. I swear. I swear. It could have started. It could have been prevented. I feel like it could have and would have if we had a different fucking president at the time. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And like I said, I am very raw. And especially because we have this fucking asshole in office today. Um, and I think it's just even worse. Like, what's going to happen when the next person happens? Like, anyways. So it's a lot. I am so grateful that I have the audiobook for this. It's helping me process my way through the story a whole lot better than I probably would be able to by reading it physically. But what I will also say, what's the interesting part of this, for me, is because I am somebody who is mixed race, and so that has played a part in my own identity. But it's interesting because for me, because I've only lived with my white, I've never like I'm not going to talk about that, but I've only known what it's like to live as in a white family, in a very white cities. So it's kind of like isolated me in a way in some ways. So a lot of things that I've learned and been educated on has been like when I became an adult and I was able to be exposed to outside of certain things. The dogs, I swear. But that being said, what's interesting to me in this is that it isn't I don't know, because like I've heard people talk about like I've like seen books where the person is mixed race, but it's usually like they're only in like one like they're only like in one aspect of that of their identity. Whereas it's kind of interesting to me because it does seem like she is like having to deal with both of those identities. She is in America, obviously, but like she has like her father is Chinese and he like basically bringing her to go back to China. But her Aunt Zhang lived there and she's connected there and you also have her mother who is white. Her aunt is also there, like because obviously as you know with like the beginning of the lockdowns and all that, there's a lot of like upheaval and worry over how people were going to survive financially and everything like that. And so both of these aunts were kind of like helping her out, and she's kind of like forced to deal with their religious as like aspects in order to like be able to like get the money that she needs to like rent her apartment and things like that. And so like we have her aunt Shang, or sorry, I really apologize if I got that. I need to look up the pronunciation of this. Uh, and I completely spaced. I forgot to do that. But and she believes in like having to make offerings to the ghosts or to your loved ones because otherwise the ghost is going to be hungry and I think it could cause problems. I'm wondering if that is the reason why she thinks she's losing her mind is because she doesn't actually like she doesn't believe in any of this. So I'm like wondering if that's the reason. But then you also have her other aunt who is a Catholic. So yeah, and I have major issues with the Catholics. But she basically forces her to go to uh what is it, confession. Basically and okay, it's not funny, but like I kind of like fucking priest deserve it. Anyways. But either way, it's interesting to see like how she doesn't really. Obviously, I don't think she's Christian. I don't think she believes in God or anything. She doesn't seem to. Um, but she also doesn't believe. So it's like she's kind of like has these two identities like in hand, like of like her Chinese identity, her white identity, and she doesn't. I'm curious if this is gonna like play a bigger role, if she's gonna actually talk about that more. Like she just like it's just there basically at the moment, but I'm seeing it maybe because I don't know. I'm seeing this. It's like it's interesting to me to see like how she has two different aunts and one's white and one's Asian, and like how both of these different religions are like impacting her in this way. Of like she's basically having to like pander to their religion in order to get the money that she needs to stay afloat. It's very clear to me that I think that if she wasn't in desperate need for money at this moment, and if she wasn't so afraid of having a roommate, she would probably wouldn't have anything to do with either one. Uh, and I know that she got. So it's just like it's that part is like interesting. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play a part in her in the narrative. Like if it is actually it's going to play a part in the narrative in any major way. I will be very interested to see how it does do that. So either way, that is that. I'm grateful that I have the audiobook for this. And then as I in the previous clip you'll know that I started The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, and in this one I'm not gonna talk about what it really is about. There's like a war maybe possibly brewing between the North and the Union, and we have Logan who is like has found his way to Amagus. At this point he's just there I think to like hopefully like get some food and some warmth and like survival and survive for another day. And I think he's going to get intertwined with Magus and his political machinations, whatever. And then you have Blanca, who is this disabled inquisitor who is dealing with chronic pain, and he basically is just fed up with life. Like I think he almost is doing things to like hopefully cause someone to like kill him. Like every time like someone's like he thinks that he has done something that would lead to like execution, he's like, and then it doesn't happen, he's like, oh, because I survived another day. Kind of like that kind of like vibe. And there's this sarcastic humor to two things. The one person that I could do without hearing from is Giselle, and I feel like that he's obviously going to have some major part in like this political possible brewing war thing. But I can't stand him. The way that he talks about women, like in his own head, it's just ew. And then the way that he like views people who he deems as beneath him because they're not like of high class. Like, oh, he wasn't just born. He didn't happen to be born like happen to be born with money. Oh, so that's awful. So that makes them beneath him, and it's really weird because like his friend, I put like slightly in quotation marks, like maybe in quotation marks, like he's friends with West, who is technically not of his class. If they do seem really good friends, possible friends, I don't know. I'm like 100 and a little bit over 100 pages. I also got like the first mention of the first law on page 83. It says this guy named Clyde. He says the first law, and Logan's like surprised, like what? And then it's forbidden to touch the other side. So apparently there's a first law. I think it must be rules of magic, maybe. And one of the laws is do not touch the other side. Basically, like to speak with devils. So, because interestingly enough, like Logan can speak to ghosts. But I guess that's not the same thing. Either way, it is interesting. It's laying the foundations. This book is like almost 600 pages long. No, actually, it's like a little over 500 pages. So I hope that things get a little bit move on because I'm trying to like figure out what the world's supposed to be. Like the politics of things. It's a little bit just kind of like going with it. I'm reading. I also like purchased the audiobook for this, which has also been helping me. But because of this, it's still on my reading down, and I've decided to like read other books alongside it because I want to be able to like, get them my library books. And if I'm not working on them, if I'm just reading this, it's probably going to take me way too long. I also got like a whole bunch of other library books. I was like thinking that's maybe a whole bunch. Oh, because I read one of them already, and then I have one over here. That I'm gonna be starting tomorrow. So there's this Quick a Plow by Itamar Vieira Jr. And then I have a whole bunch of other books. The Hollow Hundred, Amazing Dogs, Pride and Protest, Second Night Stand, The Book Club for Troublesome Women. Those are all books that you'll be sometimes see me. Obviously, those two books up there will be next as soon as I finish About Eater because those two are part of my Booker Prize catch-up. Also, real quick, the Booker Prize has long list has been announced for this year. I am not really sure about one of them because I think that I found out that one of them has some problematic aspects. So I don't know if I'm going to actually read through that long list when I'm able to, because one of the authors I think is the author I'm thinking of, and I found out some issues. That there might be some issues. I don't know, so don't fully what it is, and I can't remember where I found that out. So I did refer back to, oh my god, it's a fucking big ass bruise on, anyway. So yeah, I have a lot of library books, and that's what I was trying to get, so that I need to get to, and so this would hold me back. So that if I'm going to be like reading multiple books at a time, and I think that's probably going to be also why I am going to be changing the way that I do my videos. I might do like daily updates or something where I just talk about where I'm at with my reading, and if I have anything like significant to talk about, I will talk about it at the time, and obviously do a small review of the book as I finish them. Still doing that through the videos. So that is all the updates. We have read a lot of books. I've returned some of the books already because my library trip was yesterday evening, so I don't have the books that I finished to hold up. But these are the books. These are some of the books. Yeah, wear a mask. I would appreciate hearing your thoughts on the blade itself and garlic. Any kind of stupidity in my comments will be deleted. But I really appreciate you all watching my video to the end. If you have, put in a rainbow emoji. See you in the next one.